Entre, deux, chaises de Métal, as they do have some questions for Jerry and Brian. And if you guys got some questions, please don't be shy and come up and ask Jerry and Brian. Take it away, Mr. Christine.
So thank you guys for being here tonight. This beautiful place at the Melrose. My first question would be to you guys. We all know how Harry met Sally, and you know how Brian met Jerry.
We met Little League, 10 years old. We played on the same team.
Okay.
So he was first baseman, I was left field. And we've been friends ever since. So since 10 years old, since we're 60 now, in Whitehall, Styles, PA. So it's a little town out the skirts of Whitehall, which is the Lehigh Valley. But we know each other a long time, and before that, our grandfathers used to hang out when they were in the 30s, drove motorcycles together. So we skipped the generation, and we got back together. You know, it's pretty cool that our grandfathers were good friends back in the 30s. So his family was my family, and so it's a long thing. So no one put us together.
Okay.
You know, we were friends for a long time. Matt Millen was a good friend of ours, and our parents, his parents and my parents went to Matt because we were getting in a lot of trouble when we both got back in the area in our 20s, early 20s, and Matt said, you know, keep on going like that, you're going to get thrown in jail. Why don't you try that pro wrestling? And me inside loved George the Animal so much that he had Stuka and Mr. Wonderful and Cowboy Bob Orton stretch us, and we were working. So when we couldn't go meet him, he called us and said, if you want to serious, you go to Bergania School. And that's where we went to Minneapolis in 1985. Went to the school, and the rest is history, brother. Here we are, we're still living.
Yeah. Well, you guys, how much time did it take for you guys to know that you like wrestling? Were you fans before getting into the business or no?
Yeah, we used to watch wrestling all the time.
Okay.
Well, they used to shoot in Hamburg TV matches back in the 70s. So Captain Lou Albano, the Wild Samoans. You're talking about, you know, superstar Billy Graham, Bob Backlund was champion. You know, Bruno days. I mean, all the way back to Bruno and Pedro Morales in 1972, Shea Stadium, Andre. You know, we were kids back then. We were only 7, 8, 9 years old watching it because WWF was called, and Vince Senior ran it, and he was right. That was the show we got growing up. So we were always big fans of it. And when I was 16, I used to run bus trips down to the Spectrum to see the main events. So like 40, 50 people. My mom would sign off, and there'd be drinking on there. And, you know, yeah, it was a crazy time. But we saw Bruno against Superstar was one of the matches we saw. But then it's weird, you know, all the years later, and then we were, you know, main eventing as the world champions at the Spectrum, and had our parents there watching it. So it was a good turnaround of, you know, from being a kid watching it to actually going to the same building that used to watch, you know, superstar Billy Graham and Jimmy Superfly Snook and that. So, yeah, it's been pretty crazy.
Awesome. So one of the things you guys are most famous for in the ring was the pit stop. When one of you would take the arm and the head of another opponent, put it under the armpit of the other. Is there anybody that didn't like taking the move and said, no, I'm not doing it? And did you force them to do it in the ring?
Never.
Never?
Never. And that was brought on to us by Adrian Adonis.
Okay.
The one that said, he's the nasty boys. You know, you're not doing nothing nasty. You're not gouging somebody's eyeball out. You know, what about taking somebody's face and sticking it in the other's armpit? And he's like, well, that's a good move, you know. So that's how we got started. And Piper kind of honed us in on doing it. So, you know, Roddy was you know, we had a lot of mentors. You know, Kurt Hennig's one of the big ones. But, you know, Snuka,
Microphone close to your mouth.
Snuka and just, you know, Kurt Hennig was great when we were talking about old timers like Snuka, and then there's Adrian Adonis and Cowboy Bob Orton, and this Roddy Piper, and just, you know, guys like that, Ric Flair, and the Hulk Hogan. We got taught by them guys. So, which are some of the greatest wrestlers of all time. And, you're learning when you're a young kid by some of the greatest wrestlers. And at that time, they were in their prime and doing their thing. And we were learning off them every day. And this was, middle 80s, all the way up to, finally retired there. But a long time, we got trained by a lot of good, great wrestlers. Went through different generations. So the 80s, 90s, 2000s. But for some reason that late 80s and 90s, I don't know, the fans just come up to people like me and Sag and Hacksaw and Jake and, just that era of guys, the Hulkster and Macho Man. I don't know, it has a place in the people's hearts that they want to show their kids who they used to watch. And it was quite the time that was one hell of an era right there, so. And Andre was in there also, so, a lot of British Bulldogs. So you're talking about a lot of great, not only tag teams, but great wrestlers also.
One thing that you guys also remember from you guys from WCW was the wild brawls that you used to have with teams like Harlem Heat, Public Enemy, Cactus Jack and Max Payne. I even saw a match in WWF against the Head Shrinkers on Raw that you guys ended up in the concession stands, hitting each other with mustard and everything. Can you have any memories from those matches?
Well, that match, there was a wicked snowstorm. It was one of the first Raws ever. And everybody's flight got canceled. Somehow, me and Knobs and Sammy and Rikishi ended up making it to the building on a different flight or something like that. And this it was in Poughkeepsie, one of the first Raws ever taped along that line, and we did the others. Some of them, it's called the Manhattan Center in Manhattan. And
What did you call it? The Manhattan Center? It was in Manhattan.
It was a Manhattan Center, but it was in Denver.
Okay, cool, gotcha.
So we're like, what do we got to put some time in. Do whatever you want. That's all they had to tell us. And with Sammy's office son, Rikishi and his sons are on TV now.
Yep.
But they were the Islanders or whatever.
Head Shrinkers, yeah.
Head Shrinkers. And we just went crazy, so I think I hit during that match, we went all over the place. And it was a wild melee, which we fit right into. We just started in the ring, went over it. Somehow I ended up in this big pot. And I think I hit Sammy with it. So in the meantime, I went and grabbed him from behind. He grabbed the pot, his back's to me. He went over like this with the pot, with both hands, and clunked me on the back of the head. All of a sudden, blood's gushing down my face and the back of my head. And got a big cut in the back of my head. We just kept wrestling. But I don't know what number Raw it was. One of the in the beginning there.
Yeah, 30.
I know I had to go that night to get stitches in the hospital. That's all I remember. But that's how stuff rolls. There's a snowstorm outside, the planes. You know what I mean? We were on a hectic schedule, and we just went with it.
Cool. And of course, in WCW, you had some of those wild brawls against our Heat. And what would you think your favorite opponents down in WCW to fight?
The what?
Your best opponent in WCW to fight?
WCW, when we got there, which we had to reset ourselves, and some of the funnest and best as heels was against Marcus Bagwell and Too Cold Scorpio.
Oh, okay.
Which were two good guys, really good work.
But the first one was the Steiners.
Well,
First one in WCW. He's asking about WCW tag.
Well, they were in WCW.
He said when we went
back.
He said we went back. He just talked about WWF.
I thought he was talking about this.
Here, let him tell you. You talking about the first time we were in WCW or the second?
Well, it could be
You
both.
started in WWF.
Yeah.
He said when we went back.
Yeah.
So you tell him what you want.
But just on WCW, the real good team was the Steiners, and they were hurting people. They put us together, and we just clicked. So that's what got us into WWF. Then when we went back, we were wrestling, Marcus and them, and we won the belts and all that, but when we were there, Marcus and Tuco weren't even a team yet. The
Okay.
Steiners were the big, you know, put it this way, the people loved the Steiners, the way they used to wrestle, and they were, you know, they were real wrestlers from Michigan that could kick anybody's butts. And the stuff they did looked real because it was real. But we had great matches with it because we were barroom fighters anyway. So when we went at it, you know, people knew it, but we were good friends with them, so we had great matches. But then when we came back, like he was telling us, we did have good matches with Too Cold and Marcus, but Marcus was just beginning. Too Cold had already wrestled in Japan, and we actually had to teach them. They were put together as a tag, and Marcus didn't know nothing, you know, at the time. And we got kind of got Harlem Heat like that too. They were young. Sid brought them in. Remember? They brought Harlem Heat in, and we were trying to teach them. They weren't to the level yet, so we were actually teaching some of the younger guys that turned out to be great, awesome wrestlers at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When we wrestled, what propelled us to go to the wrestler head trick was we're going backwards now what he's talking about.
Yeah.
When started WCW, went to WWE, that's where we wrestled the Brawls we were talking about. When we went back, then after we wrestled Paul Orndorff and Paul Romo were a team, Marcus and Too Cold, then Steve Regal and Bobby Eaton were the Blue Bloods, teams like that. We wrestled in great six-mans, me, Knobs, and Rick Rude against Sting, Arn, and Flair. Arn, Flair, and Steamboat. Me, Knobs, and Rick Rude. Then we wrestled Davey Boy. Then we wrestled Davey Boy and Sting. We wrestled Hawk and Sting. We wrestled the six-man of them against Dustin Rude and Vader, I think. So there's all kind of stuff we were thrown in there when we went back, you know, a mixture of teams.
Cool. And of course, in the 80s and 90s, there was lots of multiple ribs put on you guys and against everybody else that was there. You have a favorite rib that comes to mind?
Well, there was a Europe tour and Ric Flair woke up without eyebrows. I didn't do that, but someone else might have.
We got played. That's the thing. Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff had never been a rib kid, so no matter how much, and that was taught by Mr. Fuji.
Yeah.
Because Mr. Fuji taught Kurt Hennig back in the early 80s and about all you're talking about serious rib, putting, guys put boots on fire and stuff like that. So, yes, there were a lot of big time jokesters. And then we got kind of pinpointed in that realm because we were with the Rockers and they were doing stuff back in the 80s. But we got blamed for a lot of stuff we didn't even do. You know, back in WWE days, Owen was pulling a lot of ribs, but he was silent. No one would think Owen was pulling the ribs. But we got blamed for everyone, us and the Rockers all the time. And Kurt was always involved. But Kurt was smooth enough to get himself out of it and always passed the blame on to us. So a lot of ribs we took the hell for, but we actually didn't do them. But then again, we did do a lot of them, so you'll never know.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. Someone should write a book on that. Which ribs did the Nasty Boys actually? Did they almost burn down that hotel in Japan with Lord Regal? That one could be true.
Do you guys have any regrets about your wrestling career?
None.
You, Brian? No?
No. None at all. No, the only thing is when we worked, the only angle, we were supposed to win the belts back WrestleMania 9.
Okay.
And Brutus was trying to halt because he broke and needed money or whatever. With 1 month to go, so we were going to face him. We were in England, and all of a sudden Mike and Ted were a day late, but Mike was good friends of ours. He told us right away, he says, hey man, they pulled an audible, we're going to wrestle. I thought he was bullshitting us. They were going to wrestle Hulk and, Beeford. And it wasn't Beeford. I know Ted loved it because he's wrestling Hulk, and the payday's going to be super, super big, So I could see it on the business standpoint there, but Mike was, he's a good friend of ours and told us. and kind of see this off. You work so hard, like almost like Cody Rhodes saying he finished the story. Well, that's what you do. You do a storyline till it finally ends up into a big schmoz. And we never had that big schmoz off with money. You got to, they won the belts. I don't even know whoever beat the Hulk and Beaver for the belts. Who beat them?
I think they didn't win the belt, they got DQ. And
They won they won the belts that day. But
Well,
who did they lose the belts today? Because we were out of there
beat Yogo after.
And I know I was in the back. I know what happened because I was screaming. They should just send Sean out there and give him all the fucking belts. That's how mad I was. Excuse my language, but I know who won the belts. But they would have chanted time. But I don't remember. I don't know if they relinquished them and then they had a tag tournament because we left only a couple months after that. We were gone. We were back. Dusty already had called us. And we headed back to WCW. Because we were kind of pissed off about the whole situation. Because, it's like a circle. You go and then every time you build yourself back up again, and we were right there. So that means you're going all the way around again. And at the time, WCW had some real good stroke to it. And plus, we're on a contract like a football player. So if you got hurt, you actually rehab your injury and get well. But in WWF, if you didn't wrestle, you didn't get paid. So you wrestled her, if your arm was hanging off, you'd be out there in the ring wrestling. So, but you always had the locker room doctors and lawyers that gave you advice. So we were good. There's no complaints. So, but a lot of fun. Well, it definitely was. I mean, they say the difference between WWF, but the goal as a pro wrestler, whoever it is getting into business, your goal should be in one day, and if you could, go for a championship, go to a WrestleMania, and go in a championship match. It should be your ultimate dream. Mm-hmm. But just being in a WrestleMania should be your goal as a pro wrestler because it is the Super Bowl of wrestling. We were in number 7 and 8, now they're up to number 40, so that's a long time ago. But it's quite this spectacular thing now, and we were in 92, Wembley Stadium. That was, I think, one of the, WrestleMania 8 was at the RCA Dome, but Wembley was more people than that. That was 94,000. We were opening match with me, him, and Shock against the Bushwhackers and Hacksaw. And that's another good spot to have is the opening match because they didn't see nothing yet. You're the first one out there. I mean, you had 94,000 English people from England yelling USA, USA. So, Hacksaw was over and everybody loved the Bushwhackers. So, that was a good match. That was one of the best matches we had and had fun at. It was a good time. So
perfect. So there's a question from the crowd now, I heard. So there's a question for the Nasty Boys. Come right up.
It's Alain.
Alain, I have a question for the Nasty Boys.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Turn your back to the camera. Go where TJ is, please. In one. What?
Okay, so
Here. I'm so
okay,
Alain, talk about
thank you.
I put this. Yes.
Okay. Well, so guys, my question today is at the time, beginning of the 90s, where you were in WWF, they were the tag team division was as its peak. There was a lot of good tag team like yourself, like the Bushwhacker, the Beverly Brothers, the Hart Foundation, Demolition. We can name a lot of tag team. They were amazing. So you fight early them all. So my question is, which tag team or tag teams you had the most fun with to work with? That's one. And that was your tag team winning tag team belt, yes.
They were over. The fans loved the Hart Foundation. They were a great team to go after. Plus, Jimmy Hart used to manage them, so there was more heat there because Jimmy screwed them to come with us. So it was a match made in heaven, and the match was really awesome. Even Brett had told us on different occasions that's one of his favorite tag team matches he ever had with us, and he lost the belts. It wasn't even when he won them, but you know, they were one of the greatest tag teams. But there were so many of them there at the time. You know, Power and Glory was there.
Yes.
You know, even Demolition was there, but
The Warriors.
It was yeah, and they had also.
Natural disaster.
Well, you had Haku and
Andre.
I think Haku and Bar.
Oregon, yeah.
Yeah, so you know there were so many, and in the different managers they had. At the time, they had so many different managers, from Jimmy Hart to Slick. You had Freddie Blas, who was still managing Bobby the Brain Heenan. I mean, there were so many different kind of characters. It was really a good time to be, you know, in the sport, and a lot of good, you know, everybody wanted to be in the WWF. This WCW still was that company that was, you know, trying to make it up the WWF spot. So, you know, but yeah, it really was. But they're getting back that way now, which is good. I see the different tag teams coming up as tag teams. They're not just putting guys together anymore. For a while, that's what they were doing. So, but there's an art in being a tag team wrestler, just like there is a singles wrestler. So, you know, so to be considered one of the best, and you know, people coming up is real honor for us. You know what I mean? So, but thank you for the question. Thanks for coming out.
You're welcome.
Your girlfriend there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I think she's got a question.
Okay, yeah, they should.
French question.
En quelle circonstance vous allez rencontrer Jacques Rougeau?
Can you translate for her?
I heard Jacques
En quelle
Rougeau.
circonstance que vous avez connu Jacques Rougeau?
Ah, okay. How did you guys meet for the first time, Jacques Rougeau?
But when he came, did we meet, were him and Raymond a team yet? No, they weren't. Him and Raymond were,
Jacques was by himself.
Raymond went to do all the French translation for all the pay-per-views that would come, or the TVs that would come up to Quebec, to French Canada. And Jacques moved into that Mountie thing. And and Pat instantly saw a thing there, the combination of heat. So we did a lot of six-mans with Jacques.
Can you make up your own song?
What's that? Yeah, I can't sing that right now. Yeah, we sang a song, but I can't now. There's some kids here. But anyway, so me and Knobs and the Mountie were in a lot of different matches together with comments. Sometimes it was Roddy and the Bushwhackers, and some six-mans and different stuff like that. Some eight-mans for, what was that, the Survivor Series stuff, and with different, so that's how we met Jacques. And so, well, we was our partner in a lot of stuff, you know. And he came down, some maniac up here in Montreal built him some type of shot stick, as like a zapper. But it had a big 12-volt battery in it. He wanted to go shop to beat some guys in the ring, and I think it would have killed him. They wouldn't let him put the battery in and take it nowhere, you know. Because he put it in there for our interviews, and go, and the big lightning bolts would come out of the thing. Like, who made that? It would kill an elephant, John. I don't care. I'm going to shock somebody. What? Don't shock us with it, please. So that's the Mountie. Then we wrote a song.
But he always said, he always wedged himself in that. He always had a good opponent. So when we were in the six-man, like if we're wrestling the Bushwhackers or the Road Warriors, that third man was always somebody good, because Jacques was usually our other partner, because Jimmy Hart managed him. So there was always guys. He had a feud going with the Boss Man. He had a feud going with Bret Hart.
Well,
he had a feud
that's,
going, yeah.
That's one of the funniest is, so Bret came up with this scheme, I guess, that they did in Calgary. It's called you wrestled, and then you would take the microphone, and the guy had to say, I quit. So Jacques and Bret were wrestling these I quit matches. And we did six-mans to set it up. It was Bret Hart, the Bushwhackers, and me, Knobs, and Jacques. And then it came to a head, I think, in New Haven, Connecticut or something, on a TV, and me and Knobs and Davey Boy saw this big 4-foot, 5-foot trophy. And this is going to go to the winner of the no quit match. So Davey Boy went, and he knows he was going to go, you know, probably Brett, and Brett was talking about this big trophy and all this stuff. Davey Boy went and took all the screws out of the trophy. So it was this big, tall, like the Empire State Building. Like, who's getting it? And Brett was all proud of this trophy. And then he's like, so you get the microphone, do you give up? And the Mountie would put the microphone down, and Brett would go, no! And then they fight some more. You know, finally, the Mountie gives up. Now there goes the trophy, and me and Knobs were watching. Davey Boy was twiddling the thing around, you know, messing with it. And by the Brett went like this, the trophy, the thing fell apart. And Brett's going, which one of you son of bitches messed with my trophy? He was all proud of this big trophy. It was taller than a person. You know, they brought the trophy out. It was like wobbly. Davey Boy was on his knees, pissing his pants. You know, of course, Brett comes on. You guys touch my trophy. Like, what? You got blamed for every damn thing, you know? So John was involved. I don't quit.
Anybody else have a question for?
Qu'est-ce que. Qu'est-ce qu'ils ont dit?
Ben, en fait, il y a une foire sur Jean Bourgeois avec son joystick, il aimait taper le monde avec l'affaire électrique.
John wanted to electrocute people.
Ouais, il électrocute le monde, Jean Bourgeois, lui.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
See, she wanted to hear it from you and not from her ugly boyfriend.
Oh, I see a match. Knobs is making a match in Montreal.
You got yourself a girlfriend now.
Okay.
And here's a Montreal wiseacre that comes with Nasty Boy event with a Road Warrior shirt.
He's got a Road Warrior shirt on that wasn't washed in about 20 fucking years. Thanks for dressing up for us, brother. We appreciate it. He wearing a fucking Road Warrior jersey from 1965.
That thing was wrapped around a leaky pipe in the basement. He went down and untied it.
I heard a story about you, Jerry, I think. And,
Well, not to break into your story, but what the hell's with that damn hat, too?
I get it.
I think this is Johnny Depp.
Benny Jr.
He looks like Louis the Lilac. So you heard some story.
You kick Ken Shamrock's butt in a hotel room. Is that true?
That was not my fault. He caused all that.
Really? Brian caused this?
He caused it
I
all.
was sleeping.
Yeah. So I didn't do anything, but he did. He was unconscious, but he caused all that. Knobs did.
Okay.
You know, so I ended up in a big fight because of him.
And apparently you kick his ass, right?
Yes, I did.
Oh. S'il vous plaît aussi, ils font des blagues là, par les niveaux personnels si ils font des commentaires là, en anglais sur vous autres. Là. Voilà. Anybody else has a question for Brian?
Where the boys?
In the meantime, I'm going to ask another question.
Oh, there's a question
Oh,
there.
perfect. Bert has a question.
I'm curious.
Here comes Pat's boyfriend.
Yeah.
He told me I was not his type.
Hey,
That's not what he told me, brother.
hey, he didn't win that Pulitzer Prize on his standing up. He won it on his knees.
On a more serious note, I'm just curious to know.
Don't change the subject. You're a little comfortable holding that microphone.
He says it's just like Pat.
I'm actually curious, what are you feeling after the big Cody Rhodes win at WrestleMania, making him basically the #1 guy in the business? I know he's part of your family, so it must be something very special at this point.
Well, hey, just like we felt about Dewey, that's what you call The Rock. Knowing him as a kid and the dues that he paid, we met him in Tennessee. We babysat him when Rocky came into Tennessee. They lived above us in an apartment. And any second, third generation wrestler, whether it be anybody from Mike Rotundo's kids to Randy Orton to all the kids, what dues they paid in the stripes and struggles growing up in the wrestling business. And Cody did that too, being the son of Dusty Rhodes, the ups and downs as a young kid, and then wanting to actually go into the wrestling business also. And I actually thought, me and Niles wanted to talk to Cody, like, I know your dad would never walk away from the WWE, at the time. He had the balls though to leave. And they started that Bullet Club thing, and it took off because Mark Cuban on Access TV brought Japanese wrestling to the American eye. We knew what went on in Japan. The American public never did. Almost like the day Eddie Guerrero called me, we got back from a tour of Japan, and Eddie called me and said, Sags, he was moved to Tampa at the time. Well, he was still out in Texas. He goes, is there any chance you could put a word for me in to come in WCW? I said, Eddie, we just got back to Japan with him, Chris Benoit, in our bar, which was Saggy Bar's son, the juicer or whatever. And we were on a tour of Japan with him. So I get home, Eddie calls me. I go, definitely. Me and Knobs love you. We wrestled Hector Mondo and Chago in the AWA and in Tennessee. I said, I'm leaving tomorrow to go to Center Stage. I walk into Center Stage where we tape television from Turner. Who's right next to the ring? Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, and Kevin Sullivan going over TV. I go, hey, you guys. And they, hey, welcome back from Japan, the whole deal. I said, we talked a little bit. I said, listen, I just want to run something by you. I was over. I know you know Benoit because he was here a little bit with Davey Roy. We did a thing, and but I was just in Japan with him and Eddie Guerrero. And Eddie asked me, I said, Kevin, when you think about bringing him in? And Kevin goes, you know what? I've been thinking of something. We're going to start this new show called Nitro and go head to head with, now it's Arn, Kevin, and Ric Flair. We're saying we're going to start this new show. And I was thinking of bringing in a lot of the Mexican lucha wrestlers so they don't turn the channel between the big matches. So here comes Eddie. Not about Eddie Guerrero, but Eddie got in. Now, but this is about the same thing with Cody that would happen. Now, what happens is, here they're just brought in as fill-in matches, right? Here, Americans, public never seen what goes to the matches in Mexico in the lucha style wrestling. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's wrestling lucha style, and it's huge. Now these guys are the stars, you know what I mean? So what happened was that Kenny Omega, Cody, that whole crew, there's a tag team in there, the two guys, the Young Bucks, they all come in, and now Mark Cuban puts Japanese wrestling. We went to Japan, we were huge over there. We knew what it was about. Americans' eyes in America and Canada never saw that. But once they saw it, now all the guys in wrestling, everybody now, even to this day, are wrestling Japanese style matches across the board. It got over the same way. So out of that, they got over and took their deal and started their own, basically helped start the AEW, which became the first company ever to ever be able to take the place of WCW, which the wrestling business was in dire need of a second company. TNA never filled that spot. They're always there as a company, but never the huge second company. The true second company is AEW, okay? And Cody was one of the founders of it. And then out of that fame, to have the balls and come back as one of the biggest contracts ever signed and go back to WWE and become what he did, it's amazing. And then, the pinnacle of all that was just seen on this last WrestleMania. So everybody, the whole family, I was just at our family had a wedding. Cody didn't go to it. He went back home after the thing, but we all, I was with Cody's mom, my wife's sister, Michelle. We talked all about it. I told her you know, he would tell him what I thought, the difference. We had a private talk and different things like that, but we're very proud of him because, I mean, to reach the echelon of that, the wrestling business is like his dad would be, he's like Dusty Reborn in that not many guys make it to that level. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know, and I feel the same way. You want somebody like that to make all that money and do that because almost like with Dewey, we call him Dewey, Dwayne The Rock, because we were there when they had barely any food and lived in a small apartment, and Rocky was bringing from the family, him and his mom, into town to town or territory to territory, and the dues he paid, and knowing how the struggle, I hope they all make $50 billion, you know, because of knowing what they went through as young kids.
But before Sag was ever married to Laura, which is Michelle's, you know, their sisters, you know, Dusty was our mentor in Florida, and Dustin came in, and he was a kid. Nobody gives Dustin his props. Give Dustin his props. Say he was Goldust. He didn't want to be Goldust, but he went with it just like Dusty didn't want to wear the polka dots, but he made it work. That's a trait from Dusty.
Yeah.
You know, Dusty being through all the, you know, with the Harley races and the Ric Flairs and all that stuff, and way back in the day, you know, Dusty was an ultimate genius in this business. I mean, even Hulk says it, even Rick says it. So to get that trait inside you, but Dustin, I had the same kind of respect for Dustin. I mean, and he's still doing, you know, top-notch work in AEW. And he don't want to go nowhere else. He don't want to go back up in that.
Me and him took Dustin. Dusty had me and him. He glued Dustin and me and him in Florida, and we did all kind of matches. But then it carried on to WCW. Me, Dustin, to get Dustin over. Dusty, me and Knobs, and Tag, all that kind of stuff you see on
the War Games.
Yeah, all that kind of
natural at that time.
And then at that time,
Dusty gave him that name.
Cody was only this big.
Yeah.
I remember him coming with our toy. My Nasty Boys are my favorite. Just Cody was little.
And through all the years, when Dusty was young, you know, he used to be in the back, and he wasn't old enough to go watch Willie Nelson. So they became good friends after Dusty made it big and became really close friends. So he passed the torch to us, and he got us off early in Sarasota. And me, him, and Dusty were first match and second match. We got in our car, and we hit Willie up in Clearwater, and the bus was pulling out. And I stopped the bus, banged the door, to open the door, and I said, "Hey, Dusty, we have Dusty Rhodes' son here, and Dusty left us to come here early to meet you." And Willie told us to come on the bus. Pulled the bus back up. We were on Willie's bus till about 5 in the morning, and we damn sure were smoking, and we've been good friends ever since. I'm still good friends with Willie Nelson, and thanks to Dusty Rhodes. I mean, he's the one that passed the torch to us, and me and Willie hit it off, and I'm still friends with Willie today. You know, and what an icon he is. But that's the kind of people Dusty would hang out with. Dusty get right on the stage with Willie and a beer and start singing. You know.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So there's always a big debate amongst wrestling fans, who's the best tag team of all time. In your opinion, guys, if you give me a top 3 or top 5,
Road Warriors.
Warriors, perfect.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can't. They transcended the business.
You guys say yeah.
But we know them, so shut up. But they were, you know, they were recognizable. Everybody recognized them, and they were like a shocking start. But right up there, I put the Bulldogs, the Steiners, the Hart Foundation. There's so many you can put up there, but the Road Warriors always stand out for me. I don't know if Chad thinks any different, but you know, and there were some younger when we were just growing up, like Tony Dorias and the Larry Zabiscos, but the Road Warriors just had that edge, and they were beating guys in 2 minutes that you never saw that. You know, Crusher and the Brutus, and nobody press slammed us. And at the time, them guys were young, and they were all strong, and they were all from Minnesota together. They were pressing, but the Crusher and the Bruiser didn't have a standing chance against, you know, Mike and Joe. Hawk and Animal were just, you know, badasses, and they both could fight, especially Hawk. Hawk was a true badass, you know, I mean, in actually growing up. Besides being in pro wrestling, he could fight, you know, so that gives you a good stamp of approval, too.
What about the Beverly Brothers? This guy loves the Beverly Brothers.
Yeah,
The
dude.
guys too, they're from Minnesota. Wayne Bloom's a good friend of ours, and Mike Enos. They both were trained good. You know, I don't know why they didn't make it to that. Their biggest run, I think, was in AWA when they were a Minnesota Wrecking Crew. But when they got to WWE, they didn't get I don't know, maybe a full backing by them, but they never really got over as the Beverly Brothers that big. But when they were the Wrecking Crew, they got over pretty good. I think what was Ole manager, and then I'm not sure if Ole might have been managing them.
Possible, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, they both could wrestle. And they both were all trained by the guy who trained us, Brad Riggins and Vern Gagne's camp, and they all started there in Vern's camp. They're all Minnesota boys, so yeah, they were good too, you know. But we didn't wrestle them. We didn't have that many matches. We didn't really have no kind of angle with them. We wrestled them a bunch of times, but they were with us at first, and when we were babyface, we were against them. But we always had good matches with them because when you know people like that, you have better matches and you don't know what, somebody else like. We could trust the Rockers with our life, Sean and Marty, because we used to live with them. We grew up in the business together with them. We were in Tennessee together with them. You know, we were together for about at least 10 years before we ever went back to WCW with Sean and Marty.
You guys were at a cup of coffee in the NWO with Hulk Hogan, amongst others. Why didn't it last much longer? Because I thought you had like a 3-week thing with them. You went up to the hotel or something like that. How come it didn't go farther than that?
Cup of coffee, what?
Cup of coffee with the NWO.
What's a cup of coffee?
Like a short amount of time.
We were with the
We didn't
NWO.
fucking want to be in the NWO.
You didn't want to be in
That was all put on us.
Yeah,
We didn't want no part of it.
We didn't want no part of it.
They came in talking bullshit right away. I came in laughing. And Scott and Kevin didn't like that. We knew Scott for a long time. Right there, they came down with some animosity and just had a big lecture in front of all the boys in the locker room. Me and him and Axel were out smoking a joint, and we didn't know we missed the meeting. Everybody was in there at a meeting, and I said, "What's going on?" And Kevin and Scott were giving this big speech, like, because they came from the WWF and now they're back in WCW, that they were kind of better than everybody else. You got Ric Flair in the room, you got Sting in the room, you got Lex Luger, you got some of the top stars in WCW. Don't come. They weren't belittling them, but the way they came off was kind of like, hey, we came down here to save this place. You know, it kind of rubbed me and him the wrong way. I laughed at it and walked out of the locker room, but, we were never part of being in there. So I think me being Hulk's friend at the time, that was one of our main goals. We wanted to be against them at the time. They didn't have an angle for the other guys. It was just the NWO and the NWO trying to turn baby faces. So now you got a team, the outsiders that are kind of like baby faces and heels. How are you supposed to wrestle against a guy like that? They're in between, and they want to really be baby faces, but they're supposed to be heels. So it was kind of, there was only one person really going against the whole gang, and that was Sting. But Lex and everybody, it seemed like everybody changed over to the NWO then, so, it was screwed up for a while. Then they can say, well, the ratings and the rating wars, yeah, okay, and you have Vince McMahon, so you almost beat him, almost put him out of business. Who's out of business now? It took them 4 years while they were now making, but they had never made money. They were making $100 million a year, and to go from that to losing, that's a screw up.
Yeah.
So that screw up comes directly to Eric Bischoff because he was supposed to be running the whole damn thing,
Mm-hmm.
So it just shows you the greed and the power and the politics and stuff that happens when you're in different positions. You know what I mean? Because we know Eric, when he was just selling, he was a meat salesman trying to get in the business and hanging around AWA. And we were already in the business 2-3 years, and then he got in Minnesota, like an announcer type, and he got that job in WCW, and he worked his way up. So you can't give this props to Eric because he built himself up to being the main boss there at WCW. You know what I mean? And, But like I said, if we would have known that our contract was almost up, we didn't know Scott and Kevin were coming in. If they would have said they were coming in, me and Cy would know, well, they're coming in, they're going to be heels. Top heels at the time, we were in a good spot there. So if we would have known it, we probably would have took the thing and jumped back up and, jump back in with Sean again, because That was the deal back in the day. You run a place out to when you're there for 3-4 years. Now it's time to move somewhere, get out of the company, and go leave about 3 or 4 years, and then go back again. Then you're bigger than ever because then you're back in WWE. So that was our main plan, but then it never happened.
Okay. So my last question for you guys would be, what do you think is your legacy in the pro wrestling business?
I don't know if it's a legacy, but timing is everything. In the world of tag team wrestling, we got to wrestle the best tag teams that were ever on the face of the earth, all of them. And we do something with them, or wrestle them, or be part of the greatest teams, and be around the greatest wrestlers, from the Pipers and the Snookers and the Machos and the guys that broke through all the best. And that includes Calgary, Toronto, and Montreal, and the United States, everywhere. The Japanese got to wrestle the best of the best. I mean, when we were very young in 1988, Dory Funk got us booked through Mike Graham to go to Japan, to the tag team tournament. We get there, young kids, never been to Japan. We were there for 30 days. Small hotel rooms, never been, didn't know the food or the thing, learned to love it. But in that time, to go somewhere as 2 young kids, the tag team, and wrestle the British Bulldogs, Stan Hansen, the Great Tenaroo, Abdullah Butcher and Tiger Jet Singh, Terry Gordy and Dr. Death, the Irwin brothers, and Doug Furnace was with a Quebecer. Was it? What was it? Phil. He was a great worker. Do you guys know him?
Yeah.
We got to be friends with him, and I never gained respect for him. I mean, we were friends, but I really gained respect for him when they took him and put him in to wrestle the Giant Baba.
Oh.
And that is an easy feat, because it wasn't easy to wrestle like an Andre the Giant until I watched Bob Orton work with Andre the Giant. Bob Orton was a great worker. And to watch him work with Andre was like magic. How was he doing that? He would work around him because he was a giant. Man, how he did it. That's how, what was his full name? Phil LaFawn. And him and Doug Furnace were a team. I think it was Can-Am, like Canadian American connection.
Mm-hmm.
And they were awesome. We got to work a lot with those guys. Doug Furnace was like a power lifter guy from the US, and he was a French Canadian. And but like I said, this tag team, they put them together as an American Canadian connection. But we got to work with them. And then when we got into something where the Giant Baba went into a match, they put Phil against Giant Baba. It's like, oh my God, it's like a dance. To go, that's awesome. So gained tremendous respect for the ability he had to work. I don't know who trained him. I didn't ever see him. I don't think we ever saw him again after that. You know what I mean? I know they think they both had passed. Something happened to Doug Furnace. I think something happened to Phil, right?
Not Phil.
I don't think Phil, Danny for sure, yeah. Not the Furnace for sure, yeah.
Is Phil still alive?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Just one point. I think there were actually 2 races called Phil LaFawn going back generations.
Done for a fact.
Yes, that for a fact.
Is Phil still here in Montreal then?
He's still alive.
He's still alive, but he's
Oh, he lives in Calgary? Really? I didn't know. God bless him. Maybe I'll see him someday again. I don't know. But that just something like that, one tour, to be able to wrestle that many great teams, that was, and then in that style, where, for wrestling for Old Japan, Giant Baba, that, that a minimum match there is full speed for 30 minutes. And big guys like Stan Hansen and would go like a madman and never stop. It took us 2 weeks just to get in shape enough to finish the match. And then Dynamite and Davey tested the shit out of us. And Dynamite ribbed the shit out of us. Sleep deprivation, keep us up all night, have us drunk 24/7. Then Rick light our hair on fire on the bus and lock our doors shut. And you name it, he did it to us. You know? And it was incredible. So if that could be called that, I don't know, but for some reason we were around the greatest guy. Like most of them are gone now, but we had our career spanned the time when we got to wrestle the greatest teams that'll never be again, and be around some of the greatest wrestlers that all these people know and talk about. All these guys like Andre, who started here, came from France. For some reason, we end up in Paris with Andre, and here comes, we're at the Versailles in Paris, France. We're sitting there, and here comes Andre's aunt up to us and tells us, she sits it down, I go, oh my God, great to meet you. She goes, I want to tell you guys a story about when Andre was young, growing up in Paris. So our family owned a little inn, like a guest house with a bar in it and a restaurant, and people would stay and come. And Andre was only 16, 17. He'd sit in the bar, and we had a little work planned out. And she'd go around and go, well, and this is in France. Anybody from France, or even here, she would go, well, my nephew can drink a bottle of champagne without stopping. And they're like, oh no, this is impossible. No way. And she'd go, all right, we'll take bets. Go around, everybody would put money on. It's impossible for a human being to drink a bottle of champagne without stopping. She'd collect all the money, table full of money, and Andre, boom, and go, boop, 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 and they go, whoop, with the money. This would happen once a week. I go, well, at least start laughing. You know what I mean? To be not only drinking with Andre in Paris, but to have his aunt tell us that story, I'll never forget that. Because I know we were watching.
The reason that he was with us and got opened up to us was because of me. I was, me and Taker got hooked up with Piper, and I don't remember too much.
Oh,
I know that. Tell him. It's in Barcelona. It's the first day, but nice hotel. We wrestled, and afterwards, Piper took me and Undertaker at the hotel. We broke into somebody's wedding in Spain and Barcelona. Don't know who it was. All I remember is I woke up and the phone was around my neck and my room was a wreck, and the damn bus left me, the WWF bus. We just won the championship. I said, oh, I fucked up now. I was screaming. In the airport, nobody spoke English. They didn't speak English because all I had was my passport, my credit card. They had tickets. They were flying into one town and driving to another. Well, I went and I was finally found somebody. There was only one flight into that town, and that's why Vince didn't want to take it, plus to get the buses. Here I landed. I drove $167 cab ride, paid it. I could run in the building thinking I'm late, and they weren't even there yet. And then when they came in, Zach saw I was there. The house is already here. And I went out and put a hell of a show on. And all Andre did that day was sit over there and play cribbage, but he was always looking over. And that night at the bar, he told me to come over. And we always called him boss. Yes, boss. And he said, tonight you drink with me. And I said, yes, boss, whatever you want. So we got a beer, ordered us 2 big beers, and then he says, okay, now we make a toast. I said, okay, boss, what kind of toast? And he says, the toast is, the name of this tour is, Don't Be a Knob. Oh, because back in the old days, it's respect. Hey, you party as much as you want, but you got to make it to the show the next day. You got to be on time. You got to be sober. You got to be ready to wrestle. And I did that, and then plus our work and who we got trained by, and he took me and Sags under his wing on that trip. That was one of his final European trips, and we met his family and everybody, and he was a real open arm to us, after that. You know, because we only saw him on occasions because his schedule was getting slack, but that was one of his last European tours. And we felt that it was an honor for him to even do that. But that's why, because back in the, all them guys like Ric Flair, Dusty, it was all, respect. Harley Race, it was all respect for the business, for everything. And that means a lot when you go far away. So if you impress the veterans like that, you're doing something right. So
I got on the bus that morning. I go, where the hell's Knox? And I'm waiting. No Knox. I go, no, it's Rene Goulet. I go, I got to go up and get. Goes, no, you don't. The bus is pulling out. I go, stop. I got to go. I thought he was going to run out any second. Rene goes, you don't go. We need at least one of you guys on the card. You have to come with us. He has to take care of it. I said, no, you wouldn't let me leave the bus. I'm like, oh, I was shitting my pants the whole time. We're fired. Now, we left Knobs in Barcelona. We're going to Belgium. I go, how the hell is he going to get there? He don't even speak the language, Spanish, nothing. So I go, I'm sweating. I couldn't sleep in the plane, anything like that. I would go, well, this is it for us. Our career's over now. You know what I mean? It's almost the farther around the world again. They go, I walk in, there he is. And Andre saw, like he said, that, totally a whole other respect. He beat us to the town. How do you do that?
And then Flair told that story on Piper's
Podcast?
induction speech.
Oh,
yeah, he said, and he went out with Roddy Piper, and the order he found it. He said, Lanza said, fuck the fat bastard, leave him. We left him, and then I was in the hospital with, Rick makes up the stories from Vitus, but there was a time, it wasn't that trip, I don't think, when we went over, and I had an operation on my knee, and Vince said, you just drop the belts to the Road Warriors, SummerSlam, and we'll give you time off. Well, he didn't do that. He sent us right overseas, and after my third match, we wrestled flying to different countries, and my leg blew up like a balloon, and in Birmingham, they took me to the hospital, and they wouldn't let none of these guys see me, sag the age is nothing, and they said if he had blood clot, he dies, he might die. That's what they gave them guys, and they wouldn't let nobody up to see me. So in England, it's different over there. The people that help me are nurses. They have one I had put on one arm, and he's pushing me in the gurney. It was an old hospital.
At the same time,
what the hell? What did I do wrong? And they end up in the hospital. And they say if a blood clot breaks off, it goes with my arm, I'm going to die.
During the same time, he got stabbed in Chicago. Almost died. Stabbed him with a knife, got it on the mark. Then his wife ran him over with a car, and he had to go in a helicopter to the emergency room. Then he gets in the hospital in England.
But the guys, when I came back to the building, and so I got out of the hospital, the agents called me in the office, and they said, Vince said, take a day or two off and relax, and then wrestle on the third time. I almost died and everything, not flying me home. No, take a one night rest, and you got a travel day. So then get back in the ring and wrestle. That's the way it was, So that's what I did. But you were talking about our legacy. Yeah. Well, our legacy speaks for itself. For me being this age now, and I still got people coming up, all over the world saying you were my childhood, you were this, you were that. They show their kids that are too young now, but because of the WWE Network back in the day, it's kind of changed a little bit now. But if you go and show them that, but you guys, the fans, come up to us and say you were my childhood, you were that. Hey man, we must have did something right, and our legacy must be something strong, because look at all the people that came out. I mean, we were around all day today, and there's just calls and everybody's in Montreal, like they always been fantastic fans. So I thank you, fans. Thank you.
I gotta end this session. I did this on the podcast today, and tell this one last funny story about. And this deals directly with Montreal. So we were coming to Montreal a time back in our WWF days, and we get to Montreal in the locker rooms. Dino Bravo, Gino Brito, Mosca, Rick Martel, the Rougeaus, everybody, all the French Canadian guys, Frenchie Martin, all of us. And, you know, going to Japan, you learn, they tell you when you meet somebody, you say, domo arigato. So I knew that. So they're all talking French, I don't understand. Like you guys are talking, I don't understand. So I said to Jacques and Dino, and they said, hey, well, so if I was in France, Pat, no, because Pat wasn't there at the time. So I said, well, when you welcome somebody, we come to Montreal all the time. How do you say, like we say, domo arigato? How do you say hello? And they're like looking at us and they go, well, when you walk in and see any French Canadian, you just go and say, tabernacle. I said, okay, so it goes like this. I said, tabernacle. They said, that's it. So every time I come into Canada, Montreal, I go, tabernacle. And go, I'm looking for the people are looking at me like, what's wrong with that guy? And then I started saying it to Pat, because Pat was in the locker room. I go, Pat, tabernacle, how are you? And he's like, what? What's wrong with it? So I did this for 20 years, coming in with the French Canadian tabernacle until these guys. I didn't. So finally, somebody said, you know, you're saying a bad word. I went, what? I would know that's hello. No, it isn't. I said that means hello. They would, no, it don't. I go, those son of a bitches. Yeah, I would say tabernacle. And you look, what? I go, you would never say no. They go, how are you doing? I go, maybe Pat don't like me. I don't know. Here I was telling everybody this bad word, and these guys told me. So when we first met them, so every time I email or main guy over here, good old
fire what?
Yeah,
Firecracker?
The fire-breathing asshole from Canada. I always end it in tabernacle. So everybody in the room, tabernacle.
What I say about the people and everything, it goes on about all these guys always saying the Mount Rushmore and that. Well, when you're friends, we got Dusty's not here no more, who is a personal friend of ours, but you got Hulk Hogan, you got Ric Flair, you got Bret Hart, you got Stone Cold Steve Austin, and just all the greats of the greats, and you still talk to them on a regular basis, and you still have that kind of connection because we're all a big professional wrestling family. That means something to me, it says, because them are some of the greatest wrestlers they put on the Mount Rushmore, including The Rock, who we babysitted. But to have them guys and still being our friends and have nothing bad, and if you ask any one of them, from Hulkster to Stone Cold to Bret Hart to good old Ric Flair, they'll all have a good nasty story for you. That's for damn sure.
Thank you, guys.
And a lot of people steal our stories.
Thank you, guys.
Tabernacle.